This is Mariel to her countrymen. On Fascism.
Friends, Trump's second election marked another rupture between public opinion and expert analysis in the United States. When elected, Trump was either a known fascist, an extremely dictatorial, militaristic, and nationalistic leader, or something new and worse. Many voters either did not receive clear warning about this threat to democracy or chose to reject it. In this episode, I'll outline Trump, fascism, and actions we can take in response. Democracies everywhere may find this relevant. We do not need to know whether Trump will run for a third term or abolish opposition parties to know that he is a fascist or worse. Most scholars who study authoritarianism agree that Trump crossed the threshold on January 6, 2021. A significant dissenting voice, Roger Griffin, held back from the word fascist only because Trump lacked a sufficiently coherent ideology during the attack on the Capitol. Instead, Griffin warns that Trump and similar leaders might pose an even greater threat to democracy through stripping away basic protections such as those against genocide. I fear that many articles written for a general audience did not sufficiently emphasize what fascism or a similar movement could mean in 21st century United States politics. I'll emphasize it here. 20th century fascists could only dream of the kind of weaponry, surveillance, and spectacle wielded by a 21st century U.S. president. Weaponry. On January 6, 2021, Trump opposed the peaceful, democratic transfer of power of a nuclear-armed state. I'll say that again because it is important. On January 6, 2021, Trump opposed the peaceful, democratic transfer of power of a nuclear-armed state. History shows, whether in Rome or Haiti, that political violence destabilizes politics. A nuclear world cannot afford such instability. Unfortunately, like Mussolini did exactly 100 years before him, Trump next fled further into power to avoid prosecution for his crime. In 1924 and 1925, Mussolini flaunted his implication in the assassination of an opposing member of parliament and then proceeded to dismantle any agencies that would prosecute him. In Trump's case, the American judiciary moved too slowly through its prosecution of January 6. The judiciary failed to protect the voters from encountering Trump on a ballot, and then the voters did not protect the judiciary. Trump successfully fled into the White House. Now, Trump is dismantling the systems that would hold him accountable. Trump also presides over a smaller scale, chaotic weapon: civilian violence. Mass shootings have increased over the past 50 years, with perpetrators becoming radicalized online and taking inspiration from previous shooters. 1 in 3 Americans now avoid some public settings out of fear of shootings, and the Surgeon General named guns a public health crisis. While this problem goes far beyond Trump, he has a long history of stoking violence with his words. Ultimately, a commander-in-chief who cheers on civilian violence wields an insidious weapon, a creeping, plausibly deniable version of black shirts and brown shirts. Surveillance. Trump achieved his election through the enormous data available about voters. Politicians have never before had more access to the thoughts and feelings of constituents, including the differences between groups. With this data, plus his vast willingness to lie to get to support, Trump appealed again and again to voter anger, fear, and devotion. Now, his allies control major communication networks, such as X and Meta, and refuse to mitigate flows of disinformation. Spectacle. Finally, Trump thrives on attention, whether a political rally or a podcast. He asserts himself in prolific creative ways, including that meme coin and monetizing his felony record. Altogether, Trump's administration updates fascism for the 21st century, with more tools, more reach, and more danger. We can choose to modify the existing word or make up a new word. Jason Stanley, author of How Fascism Works, describes Trump as a fascist, quote, because we don't have another word for something that looks so much like fascism. Roger Griffin, again, who considers Trump more dangerous than the fascists, proposes illiberal democracy to describe how Trump wants to strip away liberal democratic protections, but still allow some voting. What can we do now, beside decide on terminology? As I am addressing my countrymen, I will address President Trump directly. Mr. President, resign. Give yourself over to justice. Next, to everyone working for Trump, resign. As much as he could, he hired you more for your loyalty to him than your qualifications to govern. Even if he does not resign, give him a hiring problem. Do not work for a fascist or worse. Only stay in your job if you perform essential work for the people of the United States or the wider world. To all my fellow Americans and to the world, let us commit to nonviolence, which stabilizes democracy. Let us get prolific and creative with our democratic power. Let us bring about a peaceful transfer of power away from Trump and others like him, whether it happens today or on the scheduled inauguration day. Let us support each other while we do this. I'll list some resources in the show notes, including Erica Chenoweth's Civil Resistance, what everyone needs to know. At this juncture, I honor everyone who is already working this way, and especially everyone who has been doing so year after year. Wise, just government can take many forms, but fascism is not one of them. Illiberal democracy, democracy stripped of core protections, is not one of them. Trump's government is unacceptable. Thank you.
Nature sounds and photographs sourced from the Creative Commons and public domain. Please refer to show notes or mariel.systems/tohercountrymen for attributions. Finally, please like, share, and subscribe to support the series. Thank you.